with the initial change,
Yep.
it's just been, I mean, a frustrating year with injuries, not just to Caitlin, but obviously to Caitlin. DB ultimately ends up leaving.
Yep.
And so that, you know, we already talked about how you need time to gel, you need time to build chemistry. So how frustrating has it been that the chemistry is just, it's like start, stop, start, stop.
Yeah, it's definitely been a struggle. But I think just at the start of the season too, like, you know, you have your start of the season meetings and you're talking. And for us, it was about, listen, like, no matter what happens in the season, it's next woman up and you have to be ready. And I feel like obviously struggling with injuries, and then, you know, you sign people and then they leave, and it's like, listen, like, whoever is next, be ready to play, because it doesn't matter. Like, the games still keep coming. Like, you still have to be ready to compete. And that's why I was so happy, like, when we signed Ari.
Aliyah Boston just dropped an interview with Sue Bird, and yeah, she said some things about Caitlin Clark that really got people talking. We're going to break down every sharp point she made, every compliment, and those moments where she basically said, hey, let's keep things real here. So what was it like when Aliyah spoke out about the intense pressure of playing alongside Caitlin?
I mean, it is. Obviously, you never want people to get injured, but the reality is you have to have that mindset, and it gives other people off the floor. And I saw you talk on your own podcast about like the spacing and how different it is. But when you're entering a game, like your mental prep, how does it change? Because it's two different systems essentially.
It is. Honestly, like when C is on the floor, I'm like, listen, be ready to run. Be ready to get out. Be ready because she's looking. She's looking. She wants to play fast. Super early in the offense. And like, we do that too as well here. But I think sometimes too now without her, like we can get into like a little more half court execution, make the defenses work a little bit harder, first side, second side, third side. And then I think when you have like Kelsey, when Kelsey's playing in transition, get that ball up to her.
And then hopefully everyone's better for it when the injured players finally get back on the court. But what's really interesting is focusing on Caitlin specifically and what it's like having her out there.
So entering year 3 for you, it's a lot of change.
Yes.
You have a coaching change. Yep. You have a ton of, and really overnight, what that big free agency year was, or big change was expectation.
The thing is, Aliyah Boston's words felt so genuine. They weren't some pre-approved PR polished answer from a media team. She went on Sue Bird's podcast and just told the truth about what it's really been like playing with Caitlin Clark. And honestly, that truth matters way more than another fake headline saying everyone's best friends.
Yes.
So you guys went from like this up and coming where it's like you're getting to know each other to now it's like, oh, they could win the whole thing.
Yeah.
So what was the experience of essentially becoming like, instead of being the hunter, you're now the hunted?
Yeah, it's crazy, but I feel like it was definitely expected. Like, I think number one, like just last year, everyone, like when they see our name on the schedule, even though the year before we didn't win, like we won 13 games or whatever it was. And it was like, okay, well, but then you added in Caitlin, right? And everybody's like, oh, like they're going to be this, and this. And now everybody's like, oh, you know what? We're going to prove you wrong. Like, hell no.
Look, Boston's perspective is super sharp because she's living this situation every single day. Caitlin Clark, she's been called the future of women's basketball, ESPN's go-to highlight machine, and a ratings magnet. That kind of buzz, you can't escape it, whether you're scrolling your phone or walking into a packed arena, and Boston definitely sees it. She straight up said that Caitlin brings massive eyes, attention, and huge expectations to every single Fever game. Now here's what's important. Aliyah Boston isn't some bitter teammate looking for pity. She's an all-star herself, Rookie of the Year in 2023, and was the absolute centerpiece of Indiana before Clark even got there. But the day Caitlin landed in Indianapolis, everything just shifted. Every missed shot got replayed online. Every awkward play turned into a huge debate, and every win or loss, it got dissected like it was the final.
And everybody's like, yeah, like they got, for us, we always think like you have to approach every season with like, we're winning this whole season. So that was our mindset. And I think when you look at expectations, once again, expectations comes from everyone outside. Cause like in our circle, we know exactly what we want to do. We also understand that it's a process. We understand that new faces, new coaches, like different style play for people joining us. It's like people need time to figure it out once again. But when you do figure it out, it's going to be scary. And I feel like that's what it was for us. And that was our approach. And we're still like, listen, we are coming here to win this thing. Like, that's what it is. And that's not going to change no matter what, because.
And that's exactly where Boston's honesty really hits home. On Sue Bird's podcast, she explained that all that pressure, it wasn't just on Clark, it landed on everyone. Because if Caitlyn is supposed to be the savior, what happens when the team struggles? People immediately start pointing fingers, and teammates like Boston end up carrying that heavy weight too.
When we signed Ari, I felt like that was like amazing for us because obviously we couldn't predict C being out for this long at least. And so it's like having someone in that runs the point well, can call her own number, I think honestly has been like our biggest blessing. Obviously now with Bibbs, like she's coming in, she's able to stretch the floor. It's like, I think no matter what, everything is for a reason, right? And that's kind of our focus is, listen, like whatever happens, but whoever is here in our circle, listen, like we're here to hoop.
Yeah.
And that's how we're going to play. And so I feel like that's just been our approach. Like it hasn't been perfect. There's definitely been injuries here and there, but
here's the thing, she totally reminded everyone that she and Clark had literally never played together before this season. Yet, the whole world outside expected instant perfection. It's almost like critics thought Boston should magically know Caitlyn's tendencies, her timing, her vision, without actually spending months practicing and playing together. Boston's exact words were, "We weren't given that grace period of like getting to play with someone you've never played with," and that line just says it all. Think about it for a second. In the NBA, we constantly hear coaches and players say that chemistry takes time. Remember when LeBron, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh formed their big three in Miami? It took them almost a whole season to truly click, but for Caitlin Clark in the WNBA, the expectations were completely backward. Fans acted like if the Fever weren't a playoff team on day one, then Boston and everyone else must be underperforming. Boston was clearly annoyed by that whole idea, but she handled it with such calm words. She didn't rant or point fingers. She just said the team was learning and that people on the outside weren't giving them the space to actually grow. That kind of maturity from a 23-year-old. It tells you a lot about her.
And all over.
She is moving, she's making the right read, and it's like, listen, and she's scoring the ball at a very high level. And so I think, it's a little bit both, like once again, like when she's on the floor, like she's looking to get up, people can be like, listen, I don't need to outlet because I know once we rebound, we're getting it up. But I also think it, once again, it's like puts people on their toes because they're like, whoa, I need to find Kelsey in transition. I need to find Ari now. Like we got to find Sophie and Lexi knocking down threes. Like it's different, but I think everyone is once again finding their own rhythm and that we just did a great job.
So the conversation then really shifted to how her chemistry with Clark has actually developed. Boston admitted those early months were definitely tougher than she expected. There were passes she wasn't ready for, plays where she just didn't read Caitlyn's intentions fast enough. And you know how social media is, right? Clip a bad possession, throw a sarcastic caption on it, and boom, suddenly it's proof the Fever can't work together. But here's the key, Boston didn't deny those struggles at all. Instead, she explained why they happened. She said, as the season went on, she started picking up on Clark's rhythm. She'd notice where Caitlyn's eyes were going. She'd recognize a pass coming without needing to hear anything. That's how real basketball chemistry actually builds. Not from magic, but from putting in the rep. Boston even gave this really striking example, describing how once you've played enough with Caitlyn, you don't need her shouting cut or screaming for the ball. You just read her body language, the way she lifts her head, how she positions her feet, and suddenly Boston knows the pass is flying her way. That's when the Fever really started looking more connected on the court. What's crazy is that honestly, it's pretty hilarious. People thought this wouldn't take time. Did folks seriously expect Boston to instantly become Clark's perfect pick and roll partner after just one practice? Did they think every lob would be caught and finished like a highlight reel from day one? That's just not how sports work. Chemistry is messy, full of mistakes, and Boston's explanation on Sue Bird's show proves she totally understands that process. But let's be real, Boston's also dealt with some nasty trolls. On that same podcast, she admitted people have tweeted at her, calling her the worst big guy I've ever seen. Think about how absurd that is. She's a #1 draft pick, rookie of the year, an all-star, and some random person on Twitter thinks they can call her trash. Boston said she already puts enough pressure on herself, so hearing garbage like that is just exhausting, and she's absolutely right. You can tell she doesn't mind being held accountable. She admitted when things weren't smooth with Clark, but she also made it crystal clear that fans expecting instant perfection are totally clueless. And honestly, they are. Building that timing between a guard and a post player doesn't happen overnight. It takes hundreds of possessions, tons of film study, and a lot of trust. The good part is, Boston also had nothing but praise for Clark. This isn't about jealousy at all. She talked about how Caitlyn's passing ability is elite. She called her a phenomenal passer and said once she sees Clark's eyes, she knows exactly where to go. That's incredibly high praise, and it shows Boston isn't dismissing Clark's talent. She's embracing it, even while asking fans to chill out with the unfair criticism. What makes this whole thing even more interesting is how Boston framed it. She didn't just talk about Clark as an individual, she tied it right back to the entire Fever team, saying the pressure isn't just on one player, it spreads across the whole roster, and that's what most people forget. When one player gets superstar hype, everyone else gets dragged into that circus too. Sue Bird, being the incredibly smart interviewer she is, kept asking about Boston's experience with Clark, and Boston, she didn't flinch. She didn't give those tired cliche answers like we're just focused on the next game. She gave truly layered, real answers that revealed just how tough and how rewarding this partnership has been.
Single time, no
what
matter
is it about them that they're doing that?
Just the best sports scene. Like I don't know any other way to put it, but when it comes to us, when it comes to the Pacers, when it comes to sports in general, they show up and they're loud.
Yeah, no, being there definitely was just like a palpable vibe to like the whole city. I love that the city's kind of on the smaller side, so everything was convenient.
The fans really showed up, and Boston pointed out that she totally sees the value in Caitlin Clark being there. Those extra eyes on the Fever mean more visibility for the entire team. It means the league benefits, and women's basketball keeps growing. But it also means every mistake gets magnified, and learning curves aren't respected at all. That's the double-edged sword of playing with a generational star. And get this, Boston never sounded resentful. She actually sounded motivated. She basically said, yeah, the attention is heavy, but that's just part of the job now. That's what makes her take so different. Most players would just throw out some generic praise for Clark and move on. Boston took the chance to say, hey, this is awesome, but give us some breathing room to figure things out. It's that raw honesty that really hits hardest. Too often, players try to downplay or dodge questions about high-profile teammates. Boston leaned right into it. She told people what it actually feels like. She owned up to the fact that it hasn't been smooth from the jump, and she made it clear that, yes, Clark is great, but the Fever are a team, not just a one-woman show. And let's not forget Aliyah's own background. She didn't have an easy growing up in St. Thomas. She had to fight for every chance to play organized basketball. She played in co-ed leagues with barely any other girls, training outdoors in blazing heat while kids in the States had air-conditioned gyms. That kind of upbringing made her incredibly tough. So when she talks about pressure and expectations, you know she's speaking from deep experience. It's also wild how the media sometimes spins things, making it sound like there's drama between Boston and Clark. But if you actually listen to the podcast, you realize she's not tearing Clark down at all. She's explaining the process, defending her own journey, and even praising Clark's skills. It's way more balanced than the hot takes want you to believe. Plus, this podcast mattered so much because Sue Bird isn't just any host. She's a legend who knows exactly what it means to play with stars, handle expectations, and build chemistry. That made Boston feel more comfortable opening up. You could really hear the honesty in her voice. Now let's zoom out for a second. This interview isn't just about Boston and Clark. It tells us something bigger about how we treat athletes in this social media era. Fans want instant storylines, instant success, highlight plays that confirm their biases. But actual athletes, they're out there grinding, making mistakes, figuring things out. And when someone like Boston gives us that reality check, we really should listen. Aliyah's words about Caitlyn on Sue Bird's podcast kept peeling back the layers of what it really feels like to share the court with one of the most scrutinized rookies in sports history. The thing is, Caitlyn isn't a rookie anymore, but that spotlight, it hasn't dimmed, it's only gotten hotter, and Boston made sure to remind everyone that being teammates with Clark means living inside that spotlight, whether you wanted it or not. She talked about how that outside noise made their early months together almost unbearable. Every single turnover became a trending clip, every missed connection turned into a meme. Boston even admitted it seriously tested her patience. But she also acknowledged something super important. Those struggles are actually shaping her into a better player. Learning to work with a guard who plays at Clark's speed, who sees passing lanes others can't, forces Boston to elevate her own game. It's not just about surviving the hype, it's about matching the intensity that comes with it. And here's where Boston got even more real. She admitted that social media criticism isn't easy to ignore. She said she's already her own toughest critic, so when faceless trolls pile on, it just feels redundant and draining. But instead of letting that crush her, she's reframed it. She pointed out that she can either drown in the negativity or use it as fuel. Her tone made it clear she's choosing the latter. That's a level of maturity you don't always get from young stars. What stood out most is how Boston balanced that criticism with respect. She didn't dismiss Clark's hype as undeserved. In fact, she doubled down on praising Clark's vision and passing. She described moments when she no longer needs words or signals. Just one look from Clark tells her where to move. That's when you realize this isn't about jealousy, it's about patience and growth. Boston knows those tools are there for something truly special. It's just gonna take time. Sue Bird, who's played with superstars like Diana Taurasi and Brianna Stewart, clearly understood exactly where Boston was coming from. She nudged Boston to reflect on the bigger picture, and Boston's response was super telling. She said the Fever absolutely benefit from Clark's spotlight because it lifts everyone. More fans, more cameras, more coverage. It all means more opportunities for every teammate. But she also stressed it comes with an unfair cost. Outsiders expecting flawless basketball every single night. Boston's reminder was simple but sharp. They're still building. The timing of this interview also matters a lot. The Fever aren't at the bottom of the standings anymore, like in Boston's rookie year. With Clark in the mix, they've pushed into playoff contention, even as critics keep dissecting every possession. Boston used this moment to make sure people understand that the progress is real. It may not always show up in flashy highlights, but it's showing up in wins, chemistry, and confidence. Boston also reflected on how her own upbringing shaped the competitor she is today. Growing up in St. Thomas, she didn't have the luxuries American players had. Indoor gyms, endless travel circuits, fancy trainer. She played outdoors in the heat, often in co-ed leagues where she was told not to embarrass the boys. That chip on her shoulder didn't disappear when she entered the WNBA, it only sharpened. So when people try to tell her she's the worst big they've ever seen, she just laughs at the irony. That same toughness that got her here is exactly why she won't break under that nonsense. If anything, Boston's words should make Fever fans optimistic. She's not running from Clark's shadow, she's stepping into it, standing right beside it and making sure she's part of the bigger story. She made it crystal clear that this isn't Caitlin Clark's team alone, it's Indiana's team, and every player on it is adjusting, improving, and pushing for something greater. That honesty hits way harder than any empty cliche about trusting the process. By the end of the conversation, you could tell Sue Bird really respected how candid Boston was. She wasn't just hyping her teammate, but she wasn't tearing her down either. She was being truthful about the challenges, the growth, and the pressure that comes with being linked to the biggest name in the league. And that balance, tough honesty mixed with genuine praise, is exactly why this interview stood out. So Aliyah Boston truly laid it all out without filter. She called out the pressure, explained the struggles, and showed respect for Caitlin Clark's game, all in one incredible interview. No drama, just pure reality.